Namaste, Dandava Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, the status quo, chapter 32, text 21. Tataste kshina sukrata punarlokam imam sati vatanti vishvasa devai sadhyo vibramshitodaya. When the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they fall down by higher arrangement and again come back to this planet. Just as any person raised to a high position sometimes all of a sudden falls. Purport. It is sometimes found that a person elevated to a very high position in government service falls down all of a sudden, and no one can check him. Similarly, after finishing their period of enjoyment, foolish persons who are very much interested in being elevated to the position of president in higher planets also fall down to this planet. The distinction between the elevated position of a devotee and that of an ordinary person attracted to fruitive activities is that when a devotee is elevated to the spiritual kingdom, he never falls down, whereas an ordinary person falls even if he is elevated to the highest planetary system, Brahma Loka. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Abrahma Bhuvanaloka, that even if one is elevated to a higher planet, he has to come down again. But Krishna confirms in Bhagavad Gita 8.16, Mam upetya tu kaunteya punarjanma navidyate. Anyone who attains my abode never comes back to this conditioned life of material existence. Text 22. Tasmatvam sarva bhavena bhajasva paramistinam tadguna shraya ya bhaktya vajaniya padambujam. My dear mother, I therefore advise that you take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for his lotus feet are worth worshipping. Accept this with all devotion and love, for thus you can be situated in transcendental devotional service. Purport. The word Paramestinam is sometimes used in connection with Brahma. Paramesti means the Supreme Person. As Brahma is the Supreme Person within this universe, Krishna is the Supreme Personality in the spiritual world. Lord Kapila Dev advises his mother that she should take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, because it is worthwhile. Taking shelter of demigods, even those in the highest positions like Brahma and Shiva, is not advised herein. One should take shelter of the Supreme Godhead. Sarva Bhavena means in all loving ecstasy. Bhava is a preliminary stage of elevation before the attainment of pure love of Godhead. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Buddha Bhava Samanvitaha. One who has attained the stage of Bhava can accept the lotus feet of Krishna as worshipable. This is also advised here by Lord Kapila to his mother. Also significant in this verse is the phrase Tad Gunashraya Ya Bhaktya. Tad Gunashraya Ya Bhaktya. Tad Gunashraya Ya Bhaktya. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Those who engage in devotional service are accepted to be situated in the spiritual kingdom. Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. They at once become situated in the transcendental kingdom. Devotional service and full Krishna consciousness is the only means for attaining the highest perfection of life for the human being. This is recommended herein by Lord Kapila to his mother. Bhakti is therefore nirguna, free from all tinges of material qualities. Although the discharge of devotional service appears to be like material activities, it is never saguna or contaminated by material activities. Tad gunashrayaya means that Lord Krishna's transcendental qualities are so sublime that there is no need to divert one's attention to any other activities. His behavior with the devotees is so exalted that a devotee need not try to divert his attention to any other worship. It is said that the demoniac Putana came to kill Krishna by poisoning him, but because Krishna was pleased to suck her breast, she was given the same position as his mother. Devotees therefore pray that if a demon who wanted to kill Krishna gets such an exalted position, why should they go to anyone other than Krishna for their worshipful attachment? There are two kinds of religious activities, one for material advancement and one for spiritual advancement. By taking shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna, one is endowed with both kinds of prosperity, material and spiritual. Why then should one go to any demigod? 23. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janyatyasu Vairagyam Jnanam Yad Brahma Darshanam. Engagement in Krishna consciousness and application of devotional service unto Krishna make it possible to advance in knowledge and detachment, as well as in self-realization. Purport. It is said by less intelligent men that bhakti yoga, or devotional service, is meant for persons who are not advanced in transcendental knowledge and renunciation. But the fact is that if one engages in the devotional service of the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, he does not have to attempt separately to practice detachment or wait for an awakening of transcendental knowledge. It is said that one who engages unflinchingly in the devotional service of the Lord actually has all good qualities of the demigods developed in him automatically. One cannot discover how such good qualities develop in the body of a devotee, but actually it happens. There is one instance where a hunter was taking pleasure in killing animals, but after becoming a devotee, he was not prepared to kill even an ant. Such is the quality of a devotee. Those who are very eager to advance in transcendental knowledge can engage themselves in pure devotional service without wasting time in mental speculation. For arriving at the positive conclusions of knowledge in the absolute truth, the word Brahma Darshanam is significant in this verse. Brahma Darshana means to realize or to understand the transcendence. One who engages in service of Vasudeva can actually realize what Brahman is. If Brahman is impersonal, then there is no question of Darshanam, which means seeing face to face. Darshanam refers to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Unless the seer and the seen are persons, there is no Darshanam. Brahma Darshanam means that as soon as one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can at once realize what impersonal Brahman is. A devotee does not need to make separate investigations to understand the nature of Brahman. Bhagavad Gita also confirms this. Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. A devotee at once becomes becomes a self-realized soul in the absolute truth. Text 24. Yadasya chittam arteshu sameshvindriya vrittibi na vigranati vaishramyam priyam apriyam ityuta. The exalted devotee's mind becomes equipoised in sensory activities, and he is transcendental to that which is agreeable and not agreeable. Purport. The significance of advancement in transcendental knowledge and detachment from material attraction is exhibited in the personality of a highly advanced devotee. For him, there is nothing agreeable or disagreeable because he does not act in any way for his personal sense gratification. Whatever he does, whatever he thinks, is for the satisfaction of the personality of Godhead. Either in the material world or in the spiritual world, his equipoised mind is completely manifested. He can understand that in the material world there is nothing good. Everything is bad due to its being contaminated by material nature. The materialist's conclusions of good and bad, moral and immoral, etc., are simply mental concoction or sentiment. Actually, there is nothing good in the material world. In the spiritual field, everything is absolutely good. There is no inebriety in spiritual varieties. Because a devotee accepts everything in spiritual vision, he is equipoised. That is the symptom of his being elevated to the transcendental position. He automatically attains detachment, vairagya, then jnana, knowledge, and then actual transcendental knowledge. The conclusion is that an advanced devotee dovetails himself in the transcendental qualities of the Lord, and in that sense he becomes qualitatively one with the Supreme Personality of God. Text 25. Sataidavatmanatmanam nihishangam samadarshanam heyopadeya rahitam arudham padam ikshate. Because of his transcendental intelligence, the pure devotee is equipoised in his vision and sees himself to be uncontaminated by matter. He does not see anything as superior or inferior, and he feels himself elevated to the transcendental platform of being equal in qualities with the Supreme Person. Purport. Perception of the disagreeable arises from attachment. A devotee has no personal attachment to anything. Therefore, for him, there is no question of agreeable or disagreeable. For the service of the Lord, he can accept everything, even though it may be disagreeable to his personal interest. In fact, he is completely free from personal interest, and thus anything agreeable to the Lord is agreeable to him. For example, for Arjuna, at first fighting was not agreeable, but when he understood that the fighting was agreeable to the Lord, he accepted fighting as agreeable. That is the position of a pure devotee. For his personal interest, there is nothing which is agreeable or disagreeable. Everything is done for the Lord, and therefore he is free from attachment and detachment. That is the transcendental stage of neutrality. A pure devotee enjoys in the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Text 26. Jnanamatram param brahma paramatmeshvara puman drisyadi bi pratag bhavair bhagavan eka iyate. The Supreme Personality of Godhead alone is complete transcendental knowledge, but according to the different processes of understanding, he appears differently, either as impersonal Brahman, as Paramatma, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or as the Purusha avatar. Purport. The word drishyadibi is significant. According to Jiva Goswami, drishi means gyan, philosophical research. By different processes of philosophical research under different concepts, such as the process of Gyan Yoga, the same Bhagavan, or Supreme Personality of Godhead, is understood as the impersonal Brahman. Similarly, by the eightfold yoga system, he appears as the Paramatma. But in pure Krishna consciousness or knowledge in purity, when one tries to understand the absolute truth, one realizes him as the Supreme Person. The transcendence is realized simply on the basis of knowledge. The words used here, Paramatmeshvara Puman, are all transcendental, and they refer to supersoul. Supersoul is described as Purusha, but the word Bhagavan directly refers to Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full of 6 opulences: wealth, fame, strength, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. He is the personality of Godhead in different spiritual skies. The various descriptions of Paramatma, Ishvara, and Puman indicate that the expansions of the Supreme Godhead are unlimited. Ultimately, to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one has to accept Bhakti Yoga. By executing Jnana Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, one has to eventually approach the Bhakti Yoga platform, and then Paramatma, Ishvara, Puman, etc. are all clearly understood. It is recommended in the 2nd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that whether one is a devotee or future actor or liberationist, if he is intelligent enough, he should engage himself with all seriousness in the process of devotional service. It is explained that whatever one desires, which is obtainable by fruitive activities, even if one wants to be elevated to higher planets, can be achieved simply by execution of devotional service. Since the Supreme Lord is full in 6 opulences, he can bestow any one of them upon the worshipper. The one Supreme Personality of Godhead reveals himself to different thinkers as the Supreme Person or impersonal Brahman or Paramatma. Impersonalists merge into the impersonal Brahman, but that is not achieved by worshiping the impersonal Brahman. If one takes to devotional service and at the same time desires to merge into the existence of the Supreme Lord, then he can achieve that. If someone desires at all to merge into the existence of the Supreme, he has to execute devotional service. The devotee can see that the Supreme Lord face to face, but the jnani or the empiric philosopher and the yogi cannot. They cannot be elevated to the positions of associates of the Lord. There's no evidence in the scriptures stating that by cultivating knowledge or worshiping the impersonal Brahman, one can become a personal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nor by executing the yogic principles can one become an associate of the Supreme Godhead. Impersonal Brahman, being formless, is described as adrishya, because the impersonal effulgence of Brahmajyoti covers the face of the Supreme Lord. Some yogis see the 4-handed Vishnu sitting within the heart, and therefore, in their case, also the Supreme Lord is invisible. Only for the devotees is the Lord visible. Here, the statement Drishyadibi is significant. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is both invisible and visible, there are different features of the Lord. The Paramatma feature and the Brahman feature are invisible, but the Bhagavan feature is visible. In the Vishnu Purana, this fact is very nicely explained. The universal form of the Lord and the formless Brahman effulgence of the Lord, being invisible, are inferior features. The concept of the universal form is material, and the concept of impersonal Brahman is spiritual, but the highest spiritual understanding is the personality of Godhead. The Vishnu Purana states, Vishnur Brahma Swarupena Svayam Eva Vyavastita. Brahman's real feature is Vishnu, or the Supreme Brahman is Vishnu. Svayam Eva, that his personal feature. The supreme spiritual conception is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Yad Gatva na Nivartante Tad Dhamma Paramamama. That specific abode called Paramamama is the place from which once one attains it, one does not return to this miserable conditional life. Every place, every space, and everything belongs to Vishnu, but where he personally lives is Tad Dhamma Paramam, his supreme abode. One has to make one's destination the supreme abode of the Lord. And thus ends our reading for today. We'll continue from text 27 on Wednesday. Jai and Vishnupad Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Guru Dev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All glories
Jai.
to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees. Sama Bhaktivedanta Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Nashingapali Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ju Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Giri Govardhan Dham Ki Jai. Bhakti Govardhan Dham Ki Jai. Sham Kund Radha Kund Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi. Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Scientific Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Princeton Bhaktivedanta Institute Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Institute Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat Ki Jai. Jai Gaur Premanandi Hari 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 Bol. Jai Srimati Uma Devi Dasi Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
श्रीपाद कृष्ण केशव प्रभु जी की जय।
धन्यवाद प्रणाम दीदी.
धन्यवाद प्रणाम प्रभु जी। धन्यवाद।